have all of the answers. Get informed, talk to your healthcare physician, and make the right decision for you. This is a message supported by the Washington State Department of Health.
You are listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Don't forget to log on www.rainieravenue radio.world.
Letting me in. Welcome to the impacts of the coronavirus on South Seattle and surrounding communities. It's me, your host, Tony B. And yes, we're back with another outstanding show for you this Friday. Very shortly here, we'll be talking with Fire Chief Harold Scoggins. Want to be a firefighter? I'm going to give you information on how you can make that happen. Also, we've got a couple of testimonials and stories for you about coronavirus. Jasmine Pratt, who actually had a show here on Rainier Avenue Radio for a while, will be here to tell us about her experience with coronavirus, the vaccine hesitancies, what she suggests. You definitely want to make sure and check that out. Teresa Everett from Atlantic Street Center will also be here to share with us her experience with coronavirus, vaccine hesitancy, and how it's been impacting her. So if you want to hear more from members of your community about the coronavirus, we're not talking about it as much anymore. We're maskless, but it's still there. So it's an opportunity to hear from some folks in your community about their experiences. And certainly, last but not least, actually at 2:00, we'll be talking to Appollonia, Washington, and also Tre Simmons. You remember Tre Simmons, the sharpshooter basketball player from Garfield High School and also the University of Washington. They will be here to talk with us about a coat drive, early learning center, and True Motivation, which is Tre's clothing company. So all of that is going on today. In order to get started, well, let's do this. Let's bring on Fire Chief Harold Scoggins. Chief Scoggins.
Hey, good afternoon, Tony. How you doing?
You know, under the circumstances, I am fantastic. How are you doing, sir?
You know, we're doing okay. You know, we're learning how to navigate this time we're in right now, but I think we're doing okay.
Yeah. Chief Scoggins, I think I'm. Yeah, can you hear me? I know that I think there's a little bit of an internet lag. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, great to have you on the show. I called this "You Want to Be a Firefighter?" Actually, it's. But I do want to give information, and of course I've shared information about you before, but it's been a while, and we have some folks who may not have seen that last show, may have heard of you, but not know much about you. So I want to just take a little bit of time and once again share a little bit about your background. So why don't we start with doing that? I can read the bio, but it just sounds better coming from you.
Okay, sure. More than happy to share a little bit about my background. So I've been here in Seattle for 7 years as a fire chief. I actually started April 1st, 2015. So today is actually my 7-year anniversary here in the city of Seattle. Before that, I was a Glendale firefighter for 26 years down in Southern California and the chief from 2008 to 2015. You know, I rose through all the ranks and had all the experiences and just loved the profession. But before that, I was in the Air Force from 1984 to 89, where I was also a firefighter. So my entire adult life, I have been affiliated with the fire service.
Now, is this something that you've always known you wanted to do when you were a youth? Were you that youth that was like, I want to ride on a fire truck? I want to.
No, you know, that wasn't me. You know, I was a kid growing up, playing a whole lot of sports, thinking I wanted to be an athlete and do all of those things. And after high school, I had to start figuring out life because I knew that part wasn't the reality. And it was when I went in the military and took the ASVAB test, which is what it was called back then. I'm not sure if it's the same name. They give you, you know, a list of jobs based on how you score. And I had the conversation with my dad, and my dad said, hey, son, why don't you pick something you want to do in case you don't want to make the military a career and you could do on the outside. And my list shrunk way down, and I zeroed in on being a firefighter. And once I got into it, I absolutely loved it. It had, you know, all of those things I loved about sports, you know, hard work, discipline, teamwork, a sense of accomplishment when you do something well. All those feelings exist here in the fire service. So I fell in love with it, and I've been doing it ever since.
Again, you're listening to the impacts of the coronavirus on South Seattle and surrounding communities. Again, the coronavirus has impacted everything. Later on in the show, we're going to talk to a couple folks who are going to share their testimonials about the vaccine hesitancy. Chief, one of the ways that we've been connecting over the last couple of years is the role that the fire department has played during this pandemic. If you wouldn't mind sharing with us, just kind of summarizing how that happened, how the fire department became engaged in the role that the fire department played and continues to play during this pandemic.
Sure, absolutely. You know, it was late February, early March 2020. And, we were trying to figure out how to navigate this new environment because we knew 911 calls were going to still come in. So our goal was to try to figure out ways to continue to serve community, not just keeping our firefighters safe, but also helping community. So it was back in March of 2020 when we first launched our COVID-19 testing program, and our goal was to make sure we didn't have sick firefighters going into homes serving community. And so as we transitioned, because that program went really well, we transitioned into assisting in adult family homes, assisted living facilities, and nursing homes to try to help out that population because there weren't enough tests to go around at the time, if you remember. And then it was back in June of 2020 when we opened up our first community testing sites. The first one was in Soto at the Admission Center, and the second one was on Aurora, and then eventually over at Chief Sealth High School, and then down at Rainier Beach High School, which eventually switched to the Atlantic City boat ramp. So that was a way where we can help out. And, by the end of July of 2021, the Seattle firefighters had tested almost 800,000 people for COVID-19. So what an incredible accomplishment. And then we navigated the road of getting into the vaccinations and starting to help out the communities on that front. And, this is a really interesting week. On Wednesday of this week, we finally had our last vaccination event. And so we have officially stood down all of our testing and vaccination services. But Seattle firefighters and Seattle staff have tested vaccinated over 330,000 people since January of 2021. So we're really proud of ways we've been able to help the community.
Well, that gets into a little bit about the different roles that there are to play within the fire department and what the fire department does on behalf of our community. The King County Fire Chiefs Association is looking to recruit folks to the Diversity and Recruitment Workshop. This is going to be on April 9th. That's really why we are here today, to talk about this, and those who attend this workshop will have the opportunity to learn about the benefits of fire service career. They'll learn how to navigate the hiring process, which, and you correct me, people need to know it's a little bit complex. And it's open to anyone who's 16 years of age or over. I'm not trying to steal your thunder here by sharing this information, but this is what we are here to talk about. Fire Chief Scoggins, let's talk about this. The workshop. Tell me about the workshop, why you're hosting this workshop. Obviously, I want to get into some details about what folks are going to learn, as well as what you should be prepared for a career in the fire service. But let's get started. There's a workshop coming up on April 9th. Give us all the details, the when, where. Can you give us all that info?
Sure, absolutely. So the King County Fire Chiefs, through our DEI committee, we're excited to host the second workshop for diversity recruitment. We're going to be hosting it at our training center here in Seattle at 9401 Myers Way. But what we're doing is we're asking everyone to register through the King County Fire Chiefs website. That's kingcountyfirechiefs.org. That's kingcountyfirechiefs.org. And you can register at the site. So we're really excited about what's going on and to share the information on how to help people really understand and prepare on what it takes to be a firefighter. So that's what this day is all about. We have a number of sessions planned. We're going to have firefighters on site. We hope to connect people up with mentors, because it's not a one and done. It's an ongoing process. You really need to have a mentor helping you through it, because there's going to be a lot of things you don't understand. So we think this is an excellent opportunity for that.
It's called a diversity workshop, Chief Scoggins, and you know how I get down. I have open, honest conversation. So for folks who are out there thinking right now, does that mean me? Are you looking to recruit members of our BIPOC communities? Are you looking to recruit women? Are you looking to recruit members of our LGBTQIA plus communities? Is that something that you want to have happen out of this workshop?
Absolutely. We're looking to, navigate our way into spaces that fire departments in this region may not have traditionally navigated their way through. And so we want to form new connections. We want to invite everyone into the room and have the conversation to teach, train, and develop the future of our profession that we all love so much. So we would love it if, we filled up the space. We have room for 200 at the event. So we're really excited about what's coming.
Okay, and now folks have to register in advance. This is not going to be the last time I do this. Maybe we can even put this up on the screen here. Again, to register for this workshop on the 9th, what do you need to do?
Well, once you go to the website, and then you'll just fill out your name and information and your email address and all the different boxes that you have to fill in. Then you're going to start getting the information. You're going to get maps. You're going to get a registration instruction. You're going to get a QR code sent to your phone. So when you register at the event, you just scan the QR code. We're trying to use technology to help us out a little bit more. But then you're going to show up, and we got a real full day planned for you. We have a continental breakfast set up for everyone there, and a lunch for all the participants who show up. But the meat of it really is we have 4 sessions planned. We have 1 session on how to prepare for the written exam. And so that's going to be really informative. We have another session on how to prepare for the oral interview. If you haven't been around the fire service, some of the questions that you may get asked, it may be like another language to you because you just don't understand. So we're going to help you through that process. We have another session set up where how do you prepare mentally and physically to be ready for the job? Because it's a really hard job. It's a lot of hard work involved there. And then the 4th session is the medical, psych, and background portion of the hiring process. So all of these are different stages of the hiring process, and we want to just provide a lot of information for individuals so they have it.
All right. Again, my guest is Fire Chief Harold Scoggins. Does this cost anything? Is there any fee associated with this workshop?
No cost at all. No fee associated with it at all. So we're really excited about it. And the timing for Seattle Fire is really great because our applications are open right now. Our applications are open until April 19th. So our hope is individuals who are either signed up or plan on signing up for our applications, they show up, they become well informed, and then they're ready to go with our testing process. So that's open at seattlefiredjobs.com until April 19th. So if I was pursuing the career of a firefighter, I'd be at this event. I'd be getting ready for Seattle Fire's exam, and just as all the other agencies here in King County.
Okay. Now, I don't know if there's I guess this is what the workshop's for, but folks who are saying, well, I don't know if this is for me or are wondering just some of the basic requirements. This is a pretty physical job. I don't know if all aspects of working for the fire service are as physical as some of the things that I've seen the requirements are, but let's talk about this. What are some of the things that a person should be able to do if you are interested in this as a career? Physically?
Well, it's a pretty rigorous profession. Everyone starts in the same place. They go through our Recruit Fire Training Academy, which is a 15-and-a-half-week program where we really teach you the basics and the fundamentals of being a firefighter. So for 15-and-a-half weeks, you're going to have the gear on every day. That's 50 to 60 pounds worth of gear. And that's just to start to go to work. You put the gear on. So you're going to be pulling hose, throwing ladders, learning vehicle extrication, learning rope rescue, learning EMS, all of those things. So everyone starts in the same place. So be in good physical shape. And, I'll just frame it like this. Be in the best physical shape of your life, starting on day one, and you're ready to go. Be in a good mental place. It's good to be in a good mental place where you're healthy, your mind, body, and spirit is in a good place, because that way it provides clarity for you to think freely and really perform well there. So, and the requirements for the job, they aren't overwhelming. It's 18 years of age with a high school diploma. That's what you need to apply. Obviously, people transition careers or people graduate college, but that's what you really need to apply. When I got out of the Air Force in 1989, I was over 18 and I had a high school diploma. While I was on the job, I went back to college and got degrees, but that's all I had when I got hired. So everyone's able to do that.
Well, let's talk about this for a second. You said you came in and you basically worked your way through the system to become fire chief. What do you see, or do you see that as an advantage? Was that an advantage for you by, I guess, starting at the bottom and working your way to the top?
Well, I don't know if it was an advantage, but you definitely learn a profession. That's really important. You know, every time a new assignment came up over the course of my career, my hand went up. I wanted to learn. I wanted to grow. I wanted to develop. At the same time, I was taking college classes for my associate's, bachelor's, and master's degree. So I was learning on the job, and same time I was learning in the classroom. So I was able to apply what I was learning in the classroom directly to the job. So it worked out for me. You know, if I had it to do over again, maybe I would want to complete college first, because it becomes really difficult working a full-time job and going to school full-time. But I loved every minute of it.
All right. One more again. I just want to make sure we get this information out there. If this sounds like an opportunity you want to take advantage of, you have to register in advance. That's correct. And give us that information one more again about registration.
Sure, absolutely. It's at kingcountyfirechiefs.org. kingcountyfirechiefs.org. That's where you register for the recruitment workshop. And if you're interested in becoming a Seattle firefighter, that's seattlefireJobs.com. A lot of great information on that seattlefirejob.com website.
Okay, now the big question for a lot of folks is going to be the elephant in the room. Pay. Can we talk about money? Can we talk about entry level? Can we talk about, you know, the amount of money that you're going to make if you choose to get into this, and the potential for you to make if you decide, hey, this is a career I think that I want to be in this for the long run?
Absolutely. Our entry-level firefighter starting salary is $82,000 a year. So that's the starting point. That's our entry-level salary. So that's a really good starting wage. It's a livable wage, and it only goes up from there. Our firefighters generally work a lot of overtime or take different assignments, and that's one of the things that, you know, you can really love about the job. You can be a medic in our world-class Medic One system. You could be a fire inspector. You can work on our Rescue One team. You can work on our hazmat team. You can work on our fire boats. You can work on our Marine team or our Vault team or our Rescue Swimmer team. We have so many different pathways once you get in, but the starting salary is $82,000 a year.
$82,000 a year. Again, you're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio. It's me, Tony B. This is our special impacts of the coronavirus show. Talking right now to Fire Chief Harold Scoggins. There is a workshop coming up. I'm calling it, hey, do you want to be a firefighter? Now, one of the things, even in the information that's sent out, in order to do this job, in order to understand what you have to do, the wording that I've received is it's complex. Can you break that down for me? Because that's kind of vague, and I don't want there to be any barriers, or for at least people to know what they could be potentially getting into or what they should be prepared for when you say complex.
Well, this profession can be a very challenging and dangerous profession. I mean, you have to imagine, you know, what we do is we go inside of burning buildings to save lives and property. What we do is provide medical care in in environments on the street every day to save lives. What we do is provide water rescues. What we do is provide rope rescues, wildland firefighting. That can be very complex if you went into it directly doing that. But we teach you all of those things in recruit training. We teach you all of those things as you're coming up through the ranks. So oftentimes it can look very complex, but please know every incident that we've responded on, those firefighters going to that incident, they have invested thousands of hours of training to get to that point. No one starts on day one knowing it all, and we don't put you alone. We put you with other veteran firefighters. So it can look very complex, but everyone starts with the same building blocks, and we continue to grow them throughout their career.
Now, this isn't, I'm assuming, like a 9-to-5 job, because emergencies and fires happen whenever they want to. Can you give an example of maybe like a schedule or what someone should anticipate if they're looking at this as a career?
Absolutely. You may have heard the sirens in my background. They were just going by my window. But, you know, the emergencies come in around the clock. Last year, we responded to approximately 92,000 emergencies. Our firefighters work 24 hours on. That's 8 a.m. to 8 a.m. the next day. And then they're off for 2 days, 48 hours. Then they work 24 hours on again. And then they're off for 4 days. So it's 1 on, 2 off, 1 on, 4 offs. It turns out to be about 8 shifts a month. But why are you here? Yeah, that 24-hour period, you're going to be going on emergencies at 9 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock at night, or 2 o'clock in the morning. Whenever the community needs us, 24/7, 365, we respond. That's a part of who we are.
Chief Scoggins, I've been firing these questions at you, but still trying to make sure that we get this information about registration for folks in. I want to give you the opportunity for final words here. If there's anything that you would like to say to those who may be interested in recruiting, or if it's just to share information about our fire service, I'm going to give you the floor right now.
Oh, absolutely. So anyone who may be interested in becoming a firefighter, not just here in Seattle, but anywhere in King County, please go to kingcountyfirechiefs.org and register for the event. It's going to be a great learning opportunity. It's going to be an opportunity to pick up a mentor who can help guide you along the way. And if you're interested specifically in Seattle, seattleFireJobs.com. There's another opportunity. And on the King County Fire Chiefs website under careers, we have every fire department listed in King County, and you can click on them and see when they're hiring. You may live in Renton, you may live in Bellevue, you may live on the east side, you may live in Kirkland, or in all those different areas. All that information is right there on the King County Fire Chiefs website. So we hope to see you there on April the 9th for this workshop.
All right. April the 9th is the workshop. If you're interested in a career in the fire services, it's free. And you'll find out some things that you need to know. The application process is open right now. So this isn't like, hey, we're going to do some training. We're going to provide you a workshop and then there's no jobs available. My understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is you're hiring right now. Is that right?
That's absolutely correct. We're hiring right now.
All right. Thank you, Chief Scoggins, for what you do. Fire department, very noble service that you provide to us, and really appreciate what you do for our communities as well. Always great to have you on, and excited to be able to present this opportunity for you. Coming up next, we've got Jasmine Pratt, who's going to share with us her experience in dealing with COVID, any hesitancy she may have had, why she did or didn't choose to take the vaccine, what she thinks after having it, where she sits now on receiving the vaccine as we're talking about this. Teresa Everett from Atlantic Street Center will also be sharing her experience. Then we're also going to be talking to Appollonia, Washington, and Tre Simmons, who are going to share information about a coat giveaway that they've got coming up, early learning centers, and then Tre's clothing line, True Motivation. So we've got that coming up for you. We'll be back with Jasmine Pratt, and we're going to talk about the impacts of the coronavirus on her life right after this.
Here with the Rainier Avenue Radio Traffic Update. You can listen to us in your car 24/7 anytime by downloading the free TuneIn app. Once you do, search Rainier Avenue Radio. And remember, do not curse out your fellow drivers. This has been your Rainier Avenue Radio Traffic Update.
God is Rainier Avenue Radio .world, your favorite community radio station. We're putting out all kind of inputs for you in your community. So come on and listen to us and tune us in. Get on our Facebook, Instagram, and all, as we're doing it right here for you in your community with Rainier Avenue Radio .world. And God is an inspiration of gospel music. Also, we're doing a lot of different things in your community. We give out free food. We give out a lot of things in the community. We do a lot of shows. We do a lot of things on the sports part, and we want you to come on out and tune us in and come to the community, and we do a lot of things in your community. So make sure you go to our website, Rainier Avenue Radio .world, and also go to the God Is website and look us up and see what we do in your community, something maybe you might like. So come on by and check us out from 11 to 2. Free food giveaway.
All lovers, check out the Quiet Storm Dedication Show with Sergio LaCour on Love Lines. Thursdays, 9 p.m. Pacific on Rainier Avenue Radio .world.
I love the music.
Stay up to date on the coronavirus. Visit kingcounty.gov/COVID for information, guidance, and resources to help keep our communities safe and healthy. That's kingcounty.gov/COVID. This message is a public service of Rainier Avenue Radio .world.
Was poppin'? This is D Money from Fresh Juice every Wednesday night, 9 to 11 p.m. on Rainier Avenue Radio. Along with my co-host, Pint Size Patron, and ID Yourself. We've reached episode 600, y'all. On April 6th, we're celebrating in-studio guest C2B, but we also want you involved as well. So email us at dbelles@live.com, dbelles@live.com, dbelles, with a video congratulating us on our 600 or letting us know if you want to join us live to congratulate us on the air next Wednesday, 9 to 11 p.m., April 6th. Fresh Juice number 600.
Northwest Film Forum's Collective Power Fund is now open for grant applications. Grants are starting at $2,000 up to $10,000 for individual or artist collectives. The annual grant cycle focuses primarily on supporting art that incites public dialogue, pushes boundaries, explores genre fluidity, speaks its truth through an authentic perspective, and is often non-traditional, anti-institutional, socially responsible, or disruptive of any existing structures and conventions. Learn more and apply at collectivepowernw.org.
This is Rainier Avenue Radio .world.
Welcome back to Rainier Avenue Radio .world. I'm Tony B, and this is our special broadcast of the impacts of the coronavirus on South Seattle and surrounding communities. We're still here. We're maskless now. We've seen signs that there may be an uptick, but again, we're being told not an emergency situation. We've been doing this show since March 13th of 2020. We are now into April of 2022. I think there's a far better understanding in some instances about a lot of things. The coronavirus, I guess you could say, brought to light. Now, not the least of that was our healthcare system, how we communicate and share information, and racially, how our health department, you just want to say it this way. Black people, people of color, poor people caught the most hell from this coronavirus. And we know that those were systemic things. But beyond that, this impacted people personally. And that's what we want to do right now, or share some of those stories. Again, you know how we get down. We try to provide you with information so that you can make the best decision for yourself. And that's what we're doing today. And so I would like to bring on right now Jasmine Pratt. Jasmine, great to see you again.
Great to see you as well. How are you?
Well, under the circumstances, I'm doing fantastic. I guess the big question today, Jasmine, would be, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I'm doing a lot better than I was when I had the coronavirus back in 2021. But with things changing, I live in Los Angeles, so masks have come off as well here, I think about a week or two before you guys in Washington. But yeah, it's very interesting. I think I thought it would be a little bit of a smoother transition. I feel like it was a bit abrupt, but yeah, here we are, you know.
Well, for those who say, well, wait a minute, yes, Jasmine used to have a show on Rainier Avenue Radio.
I still do every Thursday.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you still do. Yeah. And there it is. There it is. The Gumbo every Thursday right here on Rainier Avenue Radio. I got to do some shameless self-promotion because y'all are so funny, and at the same time you take up serious issues and make them relatable to people, and sometimes y'all are just a hot mess.
Sometimes, yes. I think that's a very, very good way to explain us. We make a joke out of everything.
A great
serious,
show.
Thank you.
And so I got to say what's up to Dom too, since I'm, giving shout outs about that.
Yes.
The show,
Yes.
the Gumbo every Thursday. Jasmine, I want to dive into this right away. The first thing that I want to do for you prior to getting the coronavirus, were you being safe? Was it something that was of concern to you? Were you less concerned about whether this could impact you? Where were you at on coronavirus prior to contracting the virus?
Honestly, I was pretty scared. Los Angeles was very affected. It's a huge metropolitan, city, and so it was very serious here. And so I was working from home, and I was working from home as of March, and I actually worked from home I think 2 or 3 days before everyone else, because I felt like everyone around me in my cubicle at my former job was sick around me, and we kept seeing these things on the news and hearing about what's going on, and we kept getting HR emails like, hey, if you're sick, don't come to work yet. 3 people around me are coughing. And I was like, I need to work from home. So I worked from home for 2 days, and then they emailed me on Sunday and said, actually, just don't come in at all on Monday, because they told me you actually have to come back on Monday because we aren't fully set up for you to work from home. So come in on Monday. And so I said, okay. And then they texted me, actually, never mind. Just forget it. The world is shut down. So, yeah, it was definitely an adjustment, but I was being safe. I was wearing my mask. I was making sure that I was being responsible. I wasn't around too many people because, people were taking it differently than others. So some people were still going out, hanging out, partying, and others were sheltering in place. So I was doing my part to shelter in place as much as possible. But yeah, I was pretty scared. I was scared, but I also knew I was kind of young and healthy. So in the same breath, I was just cautious,
Mm-hmm. Now, at the same time, I mentioned the coronavirus impacted everything. So this was a dramatic shift, working from home. How did that, or did it impact your daily life, your job, how you did your work?
Definitely. So before I was, actually driving to work, although my commute was only 5 minutes, I was still getting out of the house. I was still around people. I was still talking to coworkers, going to the bathroom, just very much more mobile than I was prior to working from home. I worked from home and everything shifted, things were on FaceTime, things were on Zoom, GoToMeeting, just different things. And so in that way it was impacted, but socially, but also emotionally, because I didn't realize how important physical activity is to me. The gyms were closed. I go to the gym every day. So that changed my lifestyle, but also I had to figure out what to do. You know, I was easily gaining weight, you know, from what it used to be at my old job. To go to the restroom, you had to like get up, walk out of our suite, walk into the next suite, into like, it wasn't like a down the hallway kind of thing like it was from working from home. So even just little things were really an adjustment. But then I also did find myself in a bit of like a COVID blues. You know, I was just stuck in the house all day, never leaving except for going to the grocery store. And so it felt a little bit depressing. And my partner as well, he was getting that way too, kind of just depressed a little bit being at home so much. So we realized that we were actually more social beings than we originally knew. I always knew I was a social butterfly, but I didn't know how important it was to be around and be in community until I wasn't able to do that.
Okay, and again, before we get to the part where you've contracted the coronavirus, and you kind of alluded to it a little bit, I asked you about, okay, working from home, but the other part about this was your mental health. During this period of time that this thing is out there, it's all over the news. You said you're being cautious. Did you know, or were you aware of where you were at mentally, your mental health, prior to catching the coronavirus? What was your consideration for your mental health?
I think prior to COVID, I was fine. I was great. You know, I was social. I was enjoying myself. I felt like I was having a positive attitude. I was very upbeat and my normal self. When COVID happened and I was at home for officially, I would say 2 months, I think that's when the depression started to sit for a little bit. So I would say probably between May and June, I was kind of down, you know, and my boyfriend was kind of having to, come on, let's go take a walk, like drag me out of the house because I was like so in the house. I just didn't know what else to do but be in the house. So he had to like help me. We would go on walks in the neighborhood. And it was nice that actually that happened for him for me to have him, because in June, when I was finally out of my slump, he fell into his slump. So I was able to then be his, you know, helper and be like, hey, let's go for a walk. Let's do this, you know, try to get our spirits back up. And I think we kind of tried to do things as fun as we could, you know, with everything shut down. But ultimately, you know, it was very up and down roller coaster with mental health. And I never really dealt with mental health issues in the past. I will say I've been blessed to not really deal with too many issues with my mental health, but that for sure was a rough time. It was a rough patch.
Okay, Jasmine, I want to take you back there. Walk us through, share with us the place you were at when you felt like, well, wait a minute, do I have coronavirus? I'd start from the beginning of right there. What created for you a sense of urgency to either go to the doctor, or did someone tell you, hey, you've been around someone who's tested positive? Just take us back to that.
Yeah, I actually remember it quite vividly because it impacted my life substantially. So at the time, you know, they were not encouraging travel and encouraging gatherings, but on New Year's Eve, I traveled to Washington for Christmas, and then I came back. And then on New Year's Eve, the limit in the limit in California was 5 people to gather. So we'd been around the same group of friends, and we all knew that we all took it very serious. So we felt comfortable having a gathering of just 5 individuals. 2 were already myself and my partner in our apartment, and then we invited 3 guests. And just at home, you know, celebrating champagne, relaxing, hanging out, just enjoying each other's company. By that Sunday, which I believe that year it was on a Friday, New Year's Eve. So by Sunday evening, I just felt really under the weather. I didn't take it as serious at first because it just kind of felt like I just didn't feel good, but nothing too extreme. So I went to sleep. And then the next morning, Monday, I was working from home. So I woke up and I was like, wow, I still feel pretty bad, you know? And I just worked through it. Honestly, I mean, as African Americans, we just work through a lot of things. When we get sick, we feel like we still need to work, unless we're laid out. So I felt like I wasn't laid out, so I was like, okay, I'll just work through it. And plus, I'm working from home. So in between emails, I can just sit down on the couch and just relax for a second, take a little more breaks than I normally would or something. So it was Monday, but I knew I was pretty sick because I had chills. And typically if I'm coming down with something, like that's not my typical symptom. Like a typical symptom for me, if I'm just catching a cold or something, would be like a stuffy nose, maybe a cough, or, just something more mild than chills. So I knew that something was going on, but I said, I'm going to give it another day. I was on the phone with my brother. He called me and he's like, whoa, he called me on FaceTime. He said, whoa, you look terrible. Like, are you okay? I said, no, actually I'm really sick. I don't feel good at all. And I was like, don't tell mom. I don't want her to freak out. But, I think I will just keep it chill for a little bit. Because mind you, I got sick in January 2021. So catching COVID was still kind of taboo a little bit. It was like, what have you been doing, to catch coronavirus?
I want to stop you right there for a second. Then I want you to continue. Mm-hmm. But you say for you, it was taboo. What do you mean when you say it was still a little taboo? Can you just, what your thoughts were when you say taboo, what that means for us?
I mean, like, people were making it seem like, you were reckless, you just were out there, not maskless, being careless, not caring, not doing your best to not get sick. It was, most people that were around me were kind of judging people for having COVID. Oh, well, I saw her on Instagram and she was around a bunch of people, so that's probably why she got it, and it's like, in reality, people catch it from family members, people catch it from, it was nothing like that. But for me, I was a little embarrassed to even think that I could have caught it. So my mom ended up calling me 10 minutes later. My brother can't hold water. So he called my mom and told her that I was sick. And then she called me and she said, hey, if you are not feeling good tomorrow, you should go get tested. You were traveling, but also, I know you said you had a couple friends over for New Year, so you should just go get tested. So I said, okay, if I don't feel good tomorrow, I will do that. I felt about halfway worse the next day on that Tuesday. So I went to get tested. Now, mind you, this is now a couple of days after New Year's Eve. So the line to get tested was 2 hours. So imagine being very sick and standing in line for 2 hours. Your body already really hurts, from your body aches. You don't feel good. And then now you have to stand up for 2.5 hours. So that was kind of a nightmare. But when I finally went in and got tested, the lady, it didn't even take, I got a rapid test because I know that with symptoms, that one came back faster with results. So that she didn't even take 20 minutes. She came back in like 5 minutes. She's like, it's clear. You have COVID. I was like, pretty apparent. And I didn't have any of the variants, like I had like OG COVID, like the original one that everybody was catching. I got it pretty bad. And after that, it was downhill. It's like they didn't tell me, but like day 3, day 4, until the end was terrible. It was the worst sickness I'd ever felt. I don't think I've ever been that sick before. But actually I was sick. I had mono when I was 19, I had mono, and I was in the hospital for that. The difference with this is that I was terribly sick, but I had to be at home and just ride it out. No medicine, nothing to kind of make me feel better like I did when I was in the hospital. Like this time, the whole world is dealing with this. So you have to just kind of get better on your own. And that was rough. I will say that was rough.
Can you, Jasmine, share with us? I know you said sick, but can you be more specific with us? And I'm sorry if I'm getting in your Kool-Aid here a little bit, but
no, it's fine. I you know what? I must have known in the future that this day would come, but I took notes on every single day that I was sick with COVID. as far as like my symptoms and what I felt like, because honestly, I will say I did this because I thought I might die. Like, I'm 100% serious. Like, it was that bad. It was terrible. It just didn't it was hopeless because you didn't feel like you were getting better, so I had headache, major dehydration. My headache was really bad behind my eyes. So usually like those are like associated with like sinus headaches, but my sinuses weren't backed up. I just had that throbbing headache behind my eyes. So it was hard for me to even like want to open my eyes. I had no appetite. I had fatigue, extreme fatigue. Tylenol was helpful. I was taking Tylenol to help, but my fever was all day fever. If I wasn't taking my Tylenol, I was right back with my fever again. The body aches, the way I described it to someone I remember was saying that I feel like I jumped out of a 10-story building and survived. That's how bad my body felt. Like, it just felt like I'd been crashed into and lived. Like, it was really bad. I don't know how else to really say it.
Yeah. At the time that you contracted the virus, I think we were just talking about the availability of vaccines.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that they were readily available at that point. Maybe depending, probably not for you because of your age. And what was your thought at that time about a vaccine while this conversation was coming up? Were you thinking, I'm going to get the vaccine when it's available? Or were you thinking, nah, I can ride this out? I don't know. Because there was a lot of talk, and you do a show and you have discussions.
Mm-hmm.
What were your thoughts at that time about the vaccine?
So in the beginning, I was very against the vaccine because I said, well, how are you guys going to give a vaccine to people when we don't even have a lab to test properly, like the lasting effects of these vaccines? So I understood the older community. I think it was like 65 and up was able to get it at first, especially in Los Angeles. That's how it was here. And then if you had a compromised immune system, then you also could get it. But it was not available to everyone else at that time. So I said, well, I'm just not. And I remember someone saying like, well, I have a voucher if you want to take it. And I'm like, no, like, let it be for someone that needs it. That was prior to me catching COVID. Once I caught COVID and then I survived COVID, I knew I had a natural immunity because a couple months later, I went on a trip with friends, and we all got tested before we went. And mine said that it was negative test, but also I still had antibodies. So I said, okay, well, I'm safe. I'm pretty good. And I will say I did not get the vaccine until October 2021. Reluctantly. I still didn't trust it too much, but my family had gotten it, and my job, I'd gotten a new job in February. I actually had to start my job late because I got COVID. So I started that job in February, and the owner, it's a private company, and they were requiring vaccines, and I waited till the last day to get it because I thought, I don't want to compromise my natural immunity. I mean, I had it really bad, so I'm sure my body is pretty built up with. It took a long time for me to recover as well. Like, I had my hair, you see, you have a lot of hair. I had issues. My hair was messed up really, really bad. My scalp was dehydrated. I was like snow. My scalp was like snow because I was so dehydrated. I had absolutely no oils in my hair. So I took time to recover from that. My breathing, I didn't have any heavy lung issues with COVID, but I was getting exhausted and winded just from going to the bathroom, like standing up, walking to the bathroom, walk back down to sit down. I'm like, wow, like it felt like I just did a workout. That took a while for me to recover from that. So I was thinking, I had it pretty bad. And so I know my body has some kind of antibodies, built up from surviving that. So I really wasn't comfortable getting the vaccine, but I will say that I know for a fact that the vaccine protected me from getting COVID again, because I was around a lot of people during the holiday season this year in Washington, and literally sitting across from a table at a restaurant, and my friend caught COVID, and she told me, and I was fine. So I knew that because she was not vaccinated. I was. So I was like, well, I know that that's the only reason why I'm able to say that I didn't catch COVID by being around her is because I'd been vaccinated, and I was within that 90 days of being able to, feel comfortable that your body's like, top tier for battling the exposures of COVID.
And Jasmine, we've heard about some folks who they call long-termers who continue to have impacts of how are you doing now? Are you still continuing to have any residual impacts or effects that are symptoms from when you contracted COVID?
No, I thankfully I don't today still have symptoms. But it took a long time. It took maybe about 2 to 3 months to really start to feel normal again. And then even when I was feeling normal, I did have a couple like random things. My taste and smell, that was something that took a while to come back, and especially certain tastes. Like I didn't taste absolutely nothing when I had COVID. I tasted things, but they didn't taste the same. So I didn't realize how important that is to the eating process until and smell too. My smell came back before my taste, but my taste was really distorted because like certain things would just taste really bitter or really sour. Not so much sweet, I would taste the flour or something like in a cake, I would taste the things I would normally never taste rather than the actual flavoring of the taste. So that took a while, but for me, the most impactful was just the tiredness. Like I would just be exhausted, and I'm a pretty healthy person. Like I'm active, I work out at least, 40 minutes a day or longer, if I have the time. But so just not even being able to, go from one part of my apartment to the other without being extremely tired and just feeling like I just did a whole workout for 45 minutes just by walking, like I would say that was my longest one. It was just the tiredness, like just being so tired after everything. And then when I got I got a new job in February. So I was actually like walking around, and instead of just being so sedentary at my previous job, I'm actually like walking around and going places and stuff. And that was hard, because it was just, I wasn't healthy. Like I thought I was. I was, building my health back.
Jasmine, I want your opinion here, and you can share it or you can keep it to yourself, but I'm asking you for it. The rules have relaxed. There's no mask. We don't hear about COVID as much anymore. What are your thoughts on getting vaccinated? What would you, as someone who had it, felt the way that you felt, where are you at right now with expressing your feelings to someone about the vaccination for COVID?
I would say if you're comfortable getting it, then go ahead and get it. I think that the hardest thing for me was I felt like I was required to get it in order to keep a good job, and that frustrated me. I would rather have chosen on my own to get it, and on my own time and comfortability. If it wasn't required, I did get to a point where I was like, okay, well, I see. And what actually got me into actually being comfortable personally getting it is seeing that this is not just a vaccine for the United States. This is a vaccine for the entire world. And what I know that there's a lot of distrust in the African American community with vaccines, just based upon previous things, Tuskegee Airmen, and just different things that women have dealt with as well, being sterilized and whatnot by different vaccines and different things that were supposed to help us as minorities weren't. So I know that there was a lot of fear behind that. But when I realized that there are countries that are truly, truly begging for vaccines, and it's readily available in the United States, and I'm blessed to live in a place where it's being given for free. That's when it put it into perspective for me that, okay, well, they're not all trying to get this kind of attitude, like, okay, well, I feel comfortable now knowing that I can trust something that's going to help. And again, like I said, I know that I was directly in front and around someone who had it and I didn't catch it. So, and I was like directly exposed. So I know that it helped me not get it again. So I think, if you're comfortable, get it. But if you're not, do your research, get to a point where, you can make a sound decision based on facts and not so much opinion, because I think that that's where a lot of things get lost, is a lot of opinions rather than facts. So, and know your sources too, just as broadcasters, we always have to know our sources when we share it out. So, I mean, I think that goes for anything that people try to put into their body as well.
Well, Jasmine, I'm so happy that you're doing better, and that smile on your face again. Thank you for sharing your story. I know that there are a lot of folks out there who are listening, and whatever they're feeling, they're happy to have someone share your testimony, which, again, you mentioned there are judgments and taboo. So I just thank you for coming on the air with us and sharing your personal story about COVID, Jasmine.
No, thank you for having me, Tony B. It's been a pleasure. Nice to see you again. And I appreciate the time.
I think we're losing your signal a little bit, so I didn't hear that. But we're a little over time, so I'm just going to give you another show plug. Thursday nights, the Gumbo, and it actually airs other times during the week as well. I think you can also catch the Gumbo at 8 o'clock on Wednesdays if you missed it on Thursday. So Jazzy and Dom, great to have you back on the air, and great to hear that you're doing well. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Have a good day.
Okay, you too. Coming up next, we're going to be talking to Appollonia, Washington, and Tre Simmons about a coat giveaway that's coming up. We'll also talk about the Early Learning Center and True Motivations, which is Tre's clothing line. Then we'll talk with Teresa Everett, who also contracted COVID, and she is going to be here to tell us her story as well. You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio. I'm your host, Tony B. We'll be back right after this.
This is Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not busy tearing the roof off the suckers, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Hello, my name is Pastor Derek Lane, and I live and pastor here in the Othello community. I'm vaccinated because I know how illness can hurt the community. As a grandfather, I am boosted to help protect my 3.5-year-old granddaughter who can't be. I don't want to see members of my community die needlessly. And as a pastor, I've had funerals for those who caught COVID, but none from taking the vaccine. If you have questions, need resources, or want to make an appointment, visit kingcounty.gov/vaccine.
Greetings. This is your host, DJ Neftali, Rainier Avenue Radio.world, the best DJ in the Seattle area. You can catch me every Monday at 8 p.m. on YouTube. Like I said, this is DJ Neftali, the best reggae in Seattle, Washington, the best radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Come on, right?
Hi, I'm Mac McGregor, the host of the You Can Make a Difference show, which airs live every Friday at 12 noon PT time. On the You Can Make a Difference show, we shine a spotlight on people who are doing amazing things to make a positive difference in our communities and in our world. We talk about what inspired them to do the work and what inspires them to keep going, how they got their start, and how you can, if it inspires you, plug into their work. We can all do something that makes a difference. So tune in every Friday at noon to the You Can Make a Difference show with Mac McGregor.
How would COVID vaccines work in your body? Here are 3 things to know. Number 1, a vaccine is basically a training session for the immune system. Vaccines teach the immune system to look for the key features of a virus. So when a virus does show up, it's ready to fight it off. Number 2, a vaccine gives your body a plan to recognize the virus. Then your immune system starts preparing by making antibodies, or fighter cells, that stay in your blood as protection in case the virus tries to invade. What this means is you get immunity against the disease without having to get sick first. Number 3, when enough people's bodies know how to fight off a virus, it has nowhere to go. That slows the spread. When people get a vaccine, we're able to stop the spread quicker and get closer to ending the pandemic. To learn more, go to covidvaccinewa.org. A message from the state of Washington.
This is Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not shouting, "Badia!" at city council meetings, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Welcome back to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. We are your community radio station broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Over 80 members of our community produce or host shows right here on Rainier Avenue Radio. This is our special Impacts of the Coronavirus on South Seattle show. And it's also a great opportunity to talk to community members. This thing, either we're talking about it directly, it still impacts everything and impacted everything. And so even though the rules are relaxing now, we're still going to have these conversations, but it's also a great opportunity to talk to members of our community. And again, at 2:30, I'll be talking to Teresa Everett of Atlantic Street Center, who'll be sharing her story about the impact of the coronavirus on her life. But right now, I'm going to be welcoming Appollonia, Washington, and Tre Simmons, who are going to share information about the Coach Drive Early Learning Center, True Motivation. We're going to find out how they're doing, what they're doing. And since these are both small business owners, I think that this was an appropriate time to share some information with you in case you didn't know. So this is for Appollonia and Tre, who are backstage as well. Are you a small business owner in Seattle who was impacted by COVID-19? Well, the Seattle Office of Economic Development is investing $8 million to connect small businesses to operating capital. The Small Business Capital Access Program will lower the cost of Washington State Small Business Flex Fund loans by paying down 25% of the loan principal. Eligible small businesses can borrow up to $150,000 with a 4% interest rate to cover expenses like payroll, rent, utilities, and supplies. Now, the applications are due by April 8th at 5 p.m., so this is coming up pretty quickly, and you can get your questions answered about the program and the application process by calling 206-684-8090. That's 206-684-8090. Or you can email oed@seattle.gov. And if you really want to get to skinny on this, tune in at 1 o'clock on Monday. I will have Ken Takahashi from the Office of Economic Development on the air with me on Street Beat, and we'll give you the 411, the 211, everything you need to know if you are interested in applying for this potential $8 million to connect small businesses to operating capital. Having said that, I'm really excited to bring my next guests on, Appollonia, Washington, and Tre Simmons. Okay, let me see here. I see that we are having some internet problems. So Appollonia was here, and we lost her. Tre is apparently not here yet. Okay. So, you know what? We've been bringing guests live into the studio. I'm telling you, Daniel, if Appollonia gets back in, just go ahead and bring her into the show. Or if Trey gets in, just go ahead and bring him right into the show as well. But this is another one of those byproducts of the coronavirus. Is one, it pushed everybody onto the internet. And so on the one hand, it's convenient, it provides us the opportunity to continue to interview, find information, share information without actually having to have people come down to the studio, which in some cases was a benefit. In particular, during the time of coronavirus, it was a benefit. And so we continue to use this resource because now it's become part of what we do. But we still have the same issues that we had when we started this thing, is that the internet is what the internet is. And sometimes depending on where you're at or what you're doing, the signal can get lost. Again, we are waiting for our guest Appollonia Washington and also Tre Simmons to join us. They have a coat drive going on, and we would definitely want to talk about that coat drive. If you're someone in need of a coat of youth, there's an opportunity for you to get a coat. We're also going to find out more about the Early Learning Center, A for Apple, and then Tre Simmons. If you remember Tre, Garfield High School, University of Washington, just a sharpshooter, fantastic outside shooter, has a company, clothing company called True Motivations. And so we want to find out more about that as well. And we hope that the internet will cooperate with us. Again, you're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio. It's me, your host, Tony B. I just recently shared information with you about the opportunity to get part of $8 million that's going to be come through the Seattle Office of Economic Development, an $8 million investment in the Connecting Small Businesses to Operating Capital. So can be eligible for small businesses. You can borrow up to $150,000 with the 4% interest rate to cover expenses like payroll, rent, utilities, and supplies. If you've been impacted by COVID, and these are things that are potentially causing your business to go away, there is some financial relief available from the city. Applications are due by April 8th at 5 p.m., and you can get your questions answered about the program and the application process by calling 206-684-8090, or you can email oed@seattle.gov. The deadline is approaching again on April 8th, so apply for the Small Business Capital Access Program today. You know what? I think that we're going to go to a break, and we'll see if we can get this ironed out, get this straightened out, get this fixed, because I really want to hear from both Appollonia and Tre about the coat drive and some of the other stuff that they're going on. So, Mr. Bellis, if you want to take us to a break, and we'll see if we can get this resolved and come back.
This is Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not explaining to my intern exactly what R&B is, I'm listening to radio.world.
Northwest Film Forum's Collective Power Fund is now open for grant applications. Grants are starting at $2,000 up to $10,000 for individual or artist collectives. The annual grant cycle focuses primarily on supporting art that incites public dialogue, pushes boundaries, explores genre fluidity, speaks its truth through an authentic perspective, and is often non-traditional, anti-institutional, socially responsible, or disruptive of any existing structures and conventions. Learn more and apply at collectivepowernw.org.
What's on your heart? Are you exhausted at the lack of progress for people of color in business, politics, and life? This is Cindy Bright, the host of Heartbeat Radio. Each week, we explore this heart condition of the country that is affecting you and me. We have real conversations about what's necessary for change. It's time to change this dialogue. Will you join this heartbeat weekly, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. on Rainier Avenue Radio?
The beat of the Fox with nastiness is back on K-Fox Night Beat.
Yo, what's the deal? It's the legendary Hall of Fame DJ Mixmaster Ice from UTFO.
What's up? Who you thought this is? This is Sir Mix-a-Lot.
And this is Terry Lewis.
And I'm Grand Mixer GMS.
What's up, y'all? This is DJ Third Degree.
This is JJ Hudson from the High Children family.
Sunday nights from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's K-Fox Night Beat with DJ Nastiness.
Bringing back the memories.
Bringing back the memories.
Bringing Seattle's hottest music.
Bringing Seattle's hottest music. Rainier Avenue Radio World.
That's my noise.
Peace.
This is Tyrone with God Is, and the inspiration of gospel music also on Rainier Avenue Radio.world. We give out free food each and every Saturday from 11 to 2. And so we want you to come on out and support us when we love on your community. And we also have a fish fry once a month. We want to raise funds, put back into the community. And so come on, support us. We need your love. And also, if you want to be connected with us, go to Rainier Avenue Radio.world, to the website, Facebook, Instagram, and God Is. And as God Is got a website, we need your help, community. So come on out and get your free food each and every Saturday it is. And so we asking for donation, whatever you feel to give from your heart to the mind. And as we doing it right here for you, go to our website and touch love and give back. And so come on by 810 23rd Avenue, Rainier Avenue Radio.world, your community radio station and inspiration of all the things we do in your community.
If you or a family member are 55 or over and need nursing home level care, but want to keep living where you are, check out Providence Elder Place PACE. This program offers healthcare, housing, transportation, and recreational activities. There are no copays or deductibles, and it's covered through Medicare and Medicaid. Providence Elder Place PACE works to keep you healthy and in your home. Call 206-320-5325 or visit providence.org Elder Place. Providence.org Elder Place.
On Rainier Avenue Radio.world, look for the Change Your Food, Change Your Life show. I'm Dennis Weaver, your good food guide and host, helping you to feel good and look good, and who wouldn't want some of that? All that and more from the Change Your Food, Change Your Life show on Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Stories, songs, and guests. Begin living the organic good food life, and the rest of your life just may be the best of your life. Hose up, baby, to your help.
Kind of nonsense conversation are we having here?
The Neon Ghost Show. The Neon Ghost Show. Right here on Rainier... what's it? Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Right about now.
Rainier Avenue Radio.world. I'm so tired. I have to pee.
Would you like to see when your favorite Rainier Avenue Radio show comes on? Check out our show schedule, updated weekly at RainierAvenueRadio.world.
Welcome back to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. It's me, Tony B. This is our special broadcast of the impacts of the coronavirus on South Seattle and surrounding communities. We're seeing if we can get Appollonia, Washington back. She was on very briefly, but lost her. Tre Simmons is supposed to be joining us as well. A new coat giveaway is what the deal is. And I can give you some information on it. It's April 9th, and it's from noon to 3 p.m. At the A for Apple Learning Center, which is at 323 23rd Avenue South on the corner of 23rd and Jackson. So from noon to 3, it's a new coat giveaway. Sizes range from 2T to 14 and 16 for youth. Now, they're going to be giving away a lot of other things as well, like books and toys. So again, this is noon to 3 on April 9th, which is a Saturday. Next Saturday, actually. And now the coach is sponsored by True Motivation, which is Tre Simmons' clothing company. And Trey, if you don't, that name doesn't ring a bell to you, and I know for a lot of you it does, is the Seattle legend and owner of the True Motivation clothing line. Played ball at Garfield at the University of Washington, and they're sponsored. The toys are sponsored by Queen Care. So there'll be appearances by University of Washington and Seahawks players. Again, this is April 9th. The location is at the A for Apple Learning Center, and that is at 323 23rd Avenue South, right on the corner of 23rd and Jackson. So that's a little information if you are looking for a coat, a new coat. Again, folks in our community stepping up to the plate. And, I like to say ordinary people doing extraordinary things right here in our communities. You, again, are listening to Rainier Avenue Radio. Here in a little bit, I'll be joined by Teresa Everett, who will be here to share her story about COVID. Coronavirus, the impact that it's had on her, the impact, if it does continue to have on her, and where she's at with the whole vaccine thing. As we relax these rules, there can potentially be the interpretation that it's not the same problem that it was. As I cough. And I remember when I was talking with Jasmine Pratt, if you remember that conversation, there were stigmas attached to certain things at that point. Cough, someone said, "Oh, COVID." But the rules are relaxing. And where are we at with this? Well, one of the opportunities that we'd like to take advantage of is to share stories of people from our community. Maybe we've reached a point of what they call herd immunity. They're not saying that we have yet, but we're hearing about less cases. We know that there have been variants that have come out that we've had to deal with. We've heard talk about it being from a pandemic to an endemic, and life goes on. So there are just other things that continue to grab media headlines, but there is still this thing called COVID-19. And this is April 1st, and so it's not April Fool's Day. What it is, though, is it's also our birthday. This will be 4 years, moving into the 5th year of Rainier Avenue Radio broadcasting in the interest of our community. And I know that we weren't planning on doing this, but we created a little video last year. I don't know if we have access to that. If we do, we'll try to get that on for you before we go to Teresa. But I do want to share with you some things that are coming up on Rainier Avenue Radio. As I mentioned, at 1 o'clock on Monday, if you would like more information on how you can access a small business loan, the Office of Economic Development is investing $8 million into small businesses that were impacted by COVID-19, up to $150,000 to pay for payroll and things like that to keep your business going. And the deadline is April 8th. And again, I will be talking to Ken Takahashi at 1 o'clock on Street Beat right here on Rainier Avenue Radio.world, sharing more information. And if you have questions, make sure an email and we'll try and get your questions answered, or during the show, you can participate by getting in on the chat and we'll get your questions answered that way. And then later on that evening, it'll be the 51st anniversary of the assassination of Dr. King. And we will be broadcasting live right across the street from the Dr. King Memorial. There's an award ceremony that's being put on by the Martin Luther King Committee, the same folks who put on the MLK March. Speakers, attendees, reflections. We'll be bringing that to you live from 5:30 to 6:30 on Monday. So just giving you a heads up about some special things that we've got coming up for you next week on Monday. Again, at 1 o'clock, I'll be speaking with Ken Takahashi, an opportunity to learn more about $8 million that's being invested into small businesses to help with COVID-related things that may have impacted your business, lost money, whatever. At the very least, check it out, find out if you're eligible, find out if it's something that you, again, can take advantage of. $8 million is available up to $150,000. So that's Monday at 1 o'clock. Make sure and tune in, or tell a friend to tell a friend. If you know somebody who owns a small business, this may be the thing for them that can help them continue to get over this hump that was created by COVID-19, which just exacerbated all of the other things that in a lot of instances already existed within our infrastructure and what was supposed to be a safety net. Again, coming up very shortly will be Teresa Everett. Teresa is going to share her story with us about COVID. Now, it impacted her life and maybe continues to still do that. We'll talk with her about the vaccine, how she felt about the vaccine prior to COVID, how she feels about the vaccine after having been impacted by COVID, and just information that she wants to share with you, our community. We do that here on Rainier Avenue Radio. We talk with members of our community. As a matter of fact, we broadcast 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We broadcast critical issues talk shows. Some things are more humorous or funny. Some things you might find kind of weird, but it's what people from our community want to share. And so we openly and actively share that information as broadcasters, giving our community an opportunity to amplify all of the diverse voices within our community. We also broadcast sports. Yeah, we got great sports. As a matter of fact, on Monday at 6:30, you can catch Rick Dupree with Monday Night Sports. And then at 7 o'clock, Lidline. Also, Lidline Sports with Granville Emerson, Renault, Pepe, Bean, and Lil Otis Stevenson, right here on Rainier Avenue Radio. Then we also broadcast high school sports. We broadcast high school football. We broadcast high school basketball. And very shortly, we are going to be broadcasting high school baseball, both men's and then also women's fast pitch softball as well. We have great music programs. As a matter of fact, producer Daniel Bellis, who goes into the phone booth and comes back out as D Money, will be broadcasting his 600th episode of Fresh Juice right here on Rainier Avenue Radio.world. That will be on Wednesday from 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock. Caleb Brown will be joining Daniel. I know that Daniel is looking for y'all to send in videos that he can air, talking about what you think has been going on for the first 599 episodes, and a great show from Daniel, Fresh Juice, and 600 episodes. We're excited about airing that program as well. And of course, we broadcast in multiple languages. Catch Philam Radio, which airs 1 to 2:30 every Tuesday, heard all around the world. One of our most popular international shows, Philam Radio, with Norb and Bert Kowili and Miles Salvador, and the crew. Often have the number of guests on as well. It's a combination of English and Tagalog. I think it's called Tagalish. Don't want to get that wrong. But we also broadcast in Fijian, in Spanish. We have Somali shows. That's what we do. Just representative of the community that we live in. So we're going to go to break right now. Coming back, Teresa Everett will be joining us, and we'll have a conversation with her about how the coronavirus has impacted her, and how she dealt with it, what she went through, and what she has to say about it today. We'll be back right after this.
This is Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not explaining to my intern exactly what R&B is, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Northwest Film Forum's Collective Power Fund is now open for grant applications. Grants are starting at $2,000 up to $10,000 for individual or artist collectives. The annual grant cycle focuses primarily on supporting art that incites public dialogue, pushes boundaries, explores genre fluidity, speaks its truth through an authentic perspective, and is often non-traditional, anti-institutional, socially responsible, or disruptive of any existing structures and conventions. Learn more and apply at collectivepowernw.org.
1, 2, get down! What's up, big and little homies? This is Masvita Maraire, host of Seattle Sports Weekly on Rainier Avenue Radio.world, your one-stop shop for Seattle sports. We cover preps, we cover college, we cover pro, we cover it all. Huskies, Mariners, Seahawks, Garfield, South, Roosevelt, Petro, King County. This is where you want to listen to for all the sports that's happening in Seattle. Seattle Sports Weekly on Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
See a bad mother.
This is your Rainier Avenue Radio.world community update on free online exercise classes. The YMCA of Pierce and Kitsap counties has launched more than 60 free online exercise classes and youth programs to support the health and well-being of the community. Classes include boot camp, yoga, weightlifting, boxing, tai chi, and more. Find classes at ymca360.org. No membership is needed to access these classes at ymca360.org.
This is Monique Lee from the Afternoons with Monique show. I'm also the owner of Seattle Love Broker, a relationship consulting and matchmaking company. Tune in every Thursday afternoon at 1 p.m. to listen to intriguing, informative, and entertaining guests share stories of their past and vision for the future of our community.
Atlantic Street Center has been serving the children, youth, and families of the Seattle-King County area since 1910. We partner with families and communities to raise healthy, successful children and youth through services including counseling, early learning, youth development, domestic violence, and education support for school-aged children. Committed to serving the African-American community, Atlantic Street Center provides services and support for all marginalized people. Learn more at AtlanticStreetCenter.org.
Avenue Radio.world. It's me, your host, Tony B. This is our special broadcast of the impacts of the coronavirus on South Seattle and surrounding communities. We continue to broadcast this show, but incorporating into it conversations with our community members. In this particular instance, we're going to again have a discussion with a community member who contracted coronavirus. And you just heard probably that public service announcement about Atlantic Street Center. Teresa Everett works at Atlantic Street Center, so that was very appropriate to have that air just prior to her coming on. Now, again, we know that the rules are relaxing. The mask requirement is gone. And yeah, we got the vaccine. And people want to get back to some form of whatever they call normalcy. Again, some of the things that are changed, are not going to come back in a lot of instances. In some instances, at the very least, that's a good thing. We certainly know that the coronavirus and the pandemic exposed some gaps in the safety net that we thought were there. And then also in our healthcare system in particular, along with a lot of other areas. But people were impacted personally. So you get these big numbers, these big picture numbers, but lives were impacted individually by the coronavirus. And we want to make sure that we share some of these stories with you as we move into what seems to be a shift. And folks, a little less worried about it. It's not in the news every day. You remember a couple of years ago, that's all you heard about was coronavirus. Well, it's still there and still a problem all around the world. And we still have outbreaks of variants taking place in different locations around the world. So right now, I would like to welcome to the program Teresa Everett from Atlantic Street Center.
Hi, Tony. How are you?
I'm doing well, Teresa. How are you doing is the question.
All things considered, I'm doing pretty good.
Well, good to have you. You know, I want to get into a conversation, Teresa, but I would be remiss if I did not spend at least a little time talking about you and Atlantic Street Center and give you a shameless plug for the work that you do at Atlantic Street Center and the role that ASC plays in our community. So I'm going to start with that, Teresa. Tell us a little bit about the work that you do at Atlantic Street Center.
So I've been with Atlantic Street Center since 2000. So it's been 22 years that I've been working with Atlantic Street Center. And I continue to be at Atlantic Street Center because I wholeheartedly believe in the mission and the work that we're doing. And our mission is to help families and communities raise healthy, successful children and youth. We do this through direct services. And our core program areas are youth development and education, early learning, behavioral health, and gender-based violence, which you may also know as domestic violence. But those are our core program areas. And I am, my current title is Resource Development, Director of Resource Development and Public Relations. So I have been working with the community for a number of years, and I continue to be an advocate for the success of children, youth, and their families.
And Teresa, a lot of the work that Atlantic Street Center does is directly working with members of the community, providing that personal touch. And one of the things that happened during the pandemic is that all had to change. Yes. And before I get into your personal story, let's just talk about the impact of that as a service provider organization. Where people essentially depend on you for a number, not you personally, but the Atlantic Street Center for these services, a variety of services in their lives. Let's start with that. How was your job impacted by the coronavirus?
You know, immediately once it was declared a pandemic, even prior to that, when we realized that, you know, something was going on in our community and people were getting very sick and people were losing their lives, we had to start to adjust along with everyone else. But our families, who are typically blue-collar workers, were even more impacted. And so we had to adjust and help the families figure out how they were going to continue to educate their children because the schools were closing down. And so in order to do that, we had to make sure they had technology because everything went virtual or hybrid. And we had to make sure that those families had the things that they needed. So we talked with our funders and we said, hey, this is what's going on. A lot of our families don't even have the technology to go into a virtual technology world. And so they agreed to just the allocation of the funding, and we were able to get laptops for every single child and their families that needed laptops or, you know, technology, hotspots and things like that. Another thing that we saw that was immediately happening was the food insecurities because the children were at home and they couldn't afford to, you know, feed the children on a regular basis because they were no longer at school. So we started doing drive-by events where we were giving out bags of food to the families. So those are just some of the adjustments that we had to make. Our programming went online. So as staff, we had to, you know, up our game when it came to technology. And so our programming went online. Also, another big factor was that these families were losing their jobs because everything was shutting down and they weren't able to pay their rent. So basic needs were not being met. And so we applied for funding. We received funding to help with basic needs, something as simple as paying the rent because people were getting sick and they were not able to go to work. The children were getting sick as well. So we had to change, business as usual because it was no longer business as usual.
Okay, I dropped out for a second, Teresa. Are you still there?
I'm still here.
Okay. So you work with an agency that this time of the coronavirus, your services are needed more than ever.
Yes.
Where were you at personally at this time? So I'm getting in your mix a little bit here about the coronavirus. Was it something that concerned you? Was it something that you thought, that's other people? Were you being cautious? Where were you at before you caught the coronavirus in regards to how you thought it was impacting you personally besides in your job?
It was a very, very scary time because one, I knew that I fell under the priority list of people that needed to be protecting themselves. And I knew that I had family members that were also a part of that priority list of individuals. And so it was a very scary time. And then to constantly hear about deaths that were happening, but also needing to do the work that needed to be done in the community. So I was being very cautious and doing all the things that we were mandated to do and then some. I had my own little COVID station at home and was trying to make sure that we were being cautious and taking care of ourselves in regards to my family. And also mimicking and doing some of the things that were happening at work, because our job was, having people come in and clean, and we wore masks all the time. We sanitized all the time. We were being very, very cautious. And so I was cautious, but hopelessly optimistic, I would say, that things would turn around soon. But of course they didn't. Things kept getting worse. And then I think it was on this show on Rainier Avenue Radio that I learned that people of color were being disproportionately affected by COVID. So then I started to worry even more about how it was going to impact me and how it was going to impact my family.
And so now I want to take you back to that moment when something didn't feel right, or you explained to me what it was, or if you knew right away that it was COVID, if you thought you had a cold, some of the early symptoms. Take us back to that moment where you were when you started realizing something was not right with your health.
I didn't immediately know. The fatigue is probably what started first. But because we were, burning candles at both ends, trying to make sure that the community was taken care of, I just thought that, it's just working a lot and, and stress of, the pandemic and just being tired. But there were people that were starting to get COVID that was close to me, that I worked closely with, that I saw in my personal life. And they were starting to contract COVID. And so I had been exposed and I was a little concerned. So I went and got tested. And when I got tested, it took several days for the test results to come back. During that time, I started having more and more symptoms. I think that the point when I knew I had COVID is when I lost my sense of taste and smell, and everything just went downhill from there.
So I do want you, if you wouldn't mind, to tell us how you felt, how you were impacted physically, health-wise, what was going on with you, because we've heard different things from different people. But again, I'm trying to take this out of generalities and talk about the impact specifically on one of the members of our community, in particular, one who was dedicating her life to providing social service for others. And this lands on you. Teresa, what were you feeling that some people describe as sick? We had a person on earlier, Jasmine Pratt, who said it's the worst thing she's ever felt in her life. Said she felt like she'd been dropped off a 10-story building. The symptoms vary. Some for you, Teresa, and you can be explicit in your detail. How did you feel? What was going on? Share with us.
So when I lost my sense of taste and smell, before I even got the results back, I kind of knew. And then, so I before the physical health really impacted me, the mental health part of it impacted me, because I started thinking, oh my God, how sick am I going to get? You know, am I going to die? What about my kids? You know, what about all the people that are close to me, my loved ones? My boyfriend, I was like, did I give it to them? Did I give it to some of the elders in my family? So the guilt started to set in, and I felt really bad. And then I got the results back that I was positive, and I had to call all the people that I had been in contact with. And when I realized that list, it was all the people that I care about, because of course, during COVID, you really weren't around, strangers, so to speak, or people you don't really know. You only spent time with people that you cared about, your loved ones. And so that was a really long list of people that I had to contact and let them know, hey, I was exposed, I went and got tested, and I have COVID. So I felt really guilty that they could possibly contract COVID. So fast forward, the physical symptoms started to set in, and I just got really, really sick. I got weak. I had no strength to do anything. Basic things like brushing my teeth was a chore. I have stairs in my house. If I had to go up and down the stairs, I remember when people would bring me food, because it was around Thanksgiving, and when I had to go up and down the stairs, that was a lot of work. I remember one of the most significant moments is I remember there was a delivery being made to the house, and I told the delivery person, because he called me on the phone, and I told him, I said, if I have to go and put on my robe, because I had on my night clothes, I said, if I have to go and put on my robe, it's going to take 30 minutes for me to get downstairs. And he said, then just come downstairs. And that took me several minutes. But to walk around in the house and do just basic things, I couldn't do. So I had to walk downstairs in my pajamas and open the door for them to do the delivery. And I couldn't even pull the things in. They just kind of slid the things into the house, because I didn't even have the strength to pull the stuff into the house. It just sat in the living room, like water and lemons and things like that, because I had went to the home remedies. There was nothing they could give me. And that was the other thing that was very stressful, was knowing there's nothing you can take. There's nothing that's going to make you feel better, to get rid of the muscle aches, the extreme fatigue, headaches, nausea, unable to eat. It took me almost 2 weeks to be able to eat food. I mean, I had to force myself to eat. And I remember celebrating with my family like almost 2 weeks into it, because I was able to eat a can of soup and a half of a sandwich. That was a big deal that I was able to eat something. Before I started to feel better, I was coughing up blood because I was having severe issues with my chest, coughing all the time, coughing so much that my stomach muscles were weak. My sister would call and check on me every day. And I remember one day she said, if you're not better tomorrow, it's time to go to the hospital. And normally, under normal circumstances, you would be like, okay, well, that's not that bad. But knowing that you're at the point of having to go to the hospital and possibly being put on a ventilator brought about a lot of fear. I cried, I prayed, because I do believe in a higher power of mine, happens to be God. I prayed, I asked God to help me. The doctors would call and check on me, but there was nothing they could do. There was absolutely nothing they could do. And then probably about 3 weeks into it, at this point, I missed all of the holidays. I couldn't spend holidays with my children, with my grandchildren, with my family. I slowly started to feel better. And, when I say feel better, I was able to be awake for a certain number of hours during the day. Because initially all I did was sleep. The only time I woke up was when I was coughing, having those coughing attacks, and I couldn't sleep. So I turned the corner. I started feeling better. I'm working from home because my job was very understanding, and I was allowed to work from home. I was working from home, and just one day I had felt pretty good. Probably worked about 6 hours and was like, my back had started hurting, and I was like, oh my goodness, my back is hurting, and probably because I just overdid it because I hadn't worked that many hours in probably over a month. So I shut down my laptop. I was working downstairs. I went upstairs to check on my boyfriend, and the pain just intensified. And I was like, what is going on? So I called public health. I called my doctors, and they're like, you should be getting better. You shouldn't be feeling any pain like that. You shouldn't be feeling worse. I wasn't feeling better. And so it was to the point where my boyfriend was like, let's just go to the hospital. And again, there's this fear of going to the hospital. And I was like, I don't want to go to the hospital. I just don't want to go there because I was afraid of being put on a ventilator. So the on-call doctors were calling me, and they said, we can tell that you're in distress. You're in so much pain that you're in distress. So they said, try taking ibuprofen and putting a heating pad on your side. I did that, and I probably took about 24 milligrams of ibuprofen, and then I put the heating pad on my side. I was able to go to sleep with pain. The next day they had me go to something called a COVID clinic. I went to the COVID clinic, and they said, you have something called I can't remember what it's called. It starts with a P. And I said, oh my gosh, what is that? And it's inflammation of your lungs. Pleurisy, that's what it's called. Inflammation of your lungs. And I was like, well, how did I get that? And they were like, it's a side effect of COVID. That was the first side effect I had post-COVID. So they were like, you're not contagious. You're not considered to still have the virus, but you are having side effects. And I was like, what does that mean? As time went on, I learned that not only if you're lucky enough to survive COVID, there are these side effects. Long haulers. That's what they called it, long haulers. So I started having memory fog, had to take ibuprofen around the clock to deal with the pleurisy because it's so painful that when you take a breath, just breathing normally, if you try to take a deep breath, you could almost pass out. That's how painful it is. And so I started having pain in my legs, muscle pains, again, the memory fog. I was still having headaches. I was still extremely tired. If I could get through a full day's work, I slept the rest of the time. So if I worked 8 hours, I was probably sleep 16. It was just really, really taxing on my body, and I didn't realize how bad it was. And so I'm thinking that, this will last a week or two, I'll feel better. About 3 months into it now, I'm eligible to get the vaccine. I take the vaccine, and I took the Johnson & Johnson. A few days into it, my headaches came back. I started having more headaches. And the muscles in my leg, the pain got more intense. So for a while, they thought that I may have had blood clots in my legs because of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. But it ended up not being any blood clots or anything. Again, it was just post symptoms of having COVID. That has been over a year ago. I've had the vaccine, I've had the booster, and I still have COVID symptoms. I still lose my sense of taste and smell. I still have leg pains. I still have memory fog. My memory fog is so bad that now I have to write almost everything down because I'm not going to remember it. I can walk out of a room and take 5 steps out of the room and turn around and say, and look, have this dumbfounded look on my face, and my family will say, you forgot what you were getting ready to do. And I'm like, yes, I did. So I can literally walk out of a room and forget instantly why I walked out of the room. What was I getting ready to do? So people people think that, a lot of people think it's a hoax until they heard my story, because for a while, they didn't know anyone that had contracted COVID and had the severe symptoms that I had. So they thought it was a hoax. They didn't think that it was real. They didn't want to get vaccinated. And then I started telling them that I also knew people personally that had passed away from COVID. And so people started taking it seriously. They were traveling, they were doing things. And I said, it's nothing to play with. It's nothing to play with, because, several people that I know that contracted COVID and survived it, we considered ourselves among the lucky ones. As sick as we were, we considered ourselves among the lucky ones because we survived it. But I tell people, if you contract COVID and you survive it, then you have to deal with the long-term symptoms. And as I mentioned, it's been over a year since I've had COVID, and I still deal with a lot of the symptoms. I would say, I take that back. I was going to say, the memory fog may be the worst. It's probably one of the most impacting symptoms in my life right now, because, you want to be your normal self to get back to business as usual. And I realize now it may never be business as usual again. Never. And so all the people that I care about, all of my loved ones, I tell them, yes, there's a lot that we don't know. And the doctors admit that. So let me put that disclaimer out there. The doctors admit there's a lot that they don't know, because they're learning alongside us. But the alternative to not taking the vaccine, I wouldn't advise it to anyone. I wouldn't advise taking that risk, because I just recently found out about a 35-year-old that passed away. So that was in this week, that contracted COVID and passed away. So I know people that didn't take the vaccine and they contracted COVID and passed away. So I wouldn't advise it. I would advise that you take the vaccine, because contracting COVID is not for the faint of heart. It's not, and I consider myself a strong person. It is not an easy thing to overcome. It is very, very difficult. And if you have lingering symptoms, which many people that have contracted COVID that I know, they have lingering symptoms. And when you go into a kitchen and you get a glass of water, you go into the cabinet to get a glass of water, and you literally forget to close the cabinet, and you're looking at the cabinet like, how did that cabinet get open? Because you don't even remember opening it. That's severe effects on your memory. Sitting in a meeting and hearing very important information, relevant information to the work that you're doing, and you walk away from that meeting, and 5 minutes later, you don't remember the contents of that meeting. Having to write it all down so that you can remember what's going on. That's not business as usual. So whereas a lot of us are looking for things to go back to normal, I don't think that things will ever be normal again, because you're going to have all of these people that were affected by COVID that are still dealing with the side effects of COVID. And then there may be things that we don't even know about yet. So there may be some symptoms that we don't even know about. But I can tell you that even over a year later, I still have, I still lose my sense of taste and smell. And that's one of the ways that they found out that I was a long hauler, was because the first time I lost my sense of taste and smell, even after having the COVID vaccine, they had me go in and get tested. Matter of fact, they had me get tested 3 times just to confirm that it was not COVID. And then they realized that, you're probably a long hauler. You're going to have symptoms ongoing, and they have no idea when those symptoms are going to go away. They're still, doing research, and they're still trying to learn about it.
My guest is Teresa Everett of the Atlantic Street Center. Teresa, first of all, I wish you the best as you continue to struggle with the after effects of COVID. Thank you for all of the work that you do and have done for decades in our community. We're about out of time here, and I thank you so much for sharing your story. I know that there are a lot of people out there listening or watching and listening right now who appreciate it as well. Anything quickly that you want to say to folks about the vaccine in particular? And again, you don't have to advocate or not advocate, and you don't even have to share your opinion on this, but I am going to ask you, anything that you would want to share about that as things begin to look right now better?
I much like the flu shot. People take the flu shot. People die from the flu shot. We may be at herd immunity, but I would not want anyone. I wouldn't wish it on anyone to contract COVID. My opinion is to get the vaccine. Get the vaccine because you don't want to do this to yourself. Even if you're asymptomatic, you don't want to give it to someone else that you care about, your loved ones. Get the vaccine. Take care of yourself. And it is affecting BIPOC communities differently. So my appeal to the BIPOC community is to get the vaccine.
Thank you, Teresa, for joining us here on Rainier Avenue Radio. Another big shout out to Atlantic Street Center. That's it. That's all the time that I have. That's going to do it for the kid. It's me, Tony B., your host of Rainier Avenue Radio's Impacts of the Coronavirus on South Seattle and surrounding communities, saying, remember, whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, you are probably right. I'm out.